Good afternoon. Sorry you couldn't be here today. In front of you, you see the need to knows for today's class. Today we're kind of talking a little bit about scientific hypothesis and theory. Uh, One of the things to kind of remember is this scientific theory is used very differently, that word theory, than everyday use of theory. Sometimes we'll use theory in conversation, and it usually in everyday conversation means nothing more than a hypothesis, actually. So we're going to do a little bit of work with that. And then the other thing is an understanding of how a theory develops. And so you should be familiar with the scientific method, which involves observation, hypothesis, testing, analyzing data, and then asking the question, does it support my hypothesis? If no, maybe the test needs to be redesigned or the hypothesis needs to be reworked. If yes, then verification needs to take place. So that person, the scientist, would do the experiment over and over and over again in different ways to try and see if the results were consistent, and other people would also do that. And if the results are consistent for long periods of time, they then may be turned into a theory. The other thing that we're going to do today is just finish up with the dichotomous key evaluation. There's homework, questions 1 through 7 on page 139. And likely tomorrow, actually, we're going to do this hypothesis activity. So as part of our discussion about the theory of evolution, just wanted to spend some time making sure that we understand what this word evolve means. So based on this idea of evolving, it's really the study of how evolution, defined as an undergoing change and development. So it's really talking a lot about the changes that take place in our species, in our environment, and that sort of thing. So we watched this video on YouTube about the blind cavefish, and the blind cavefish is actually a reasonably good example of how a species of fish may have evolved based on an environment that was quite dark for whatever reason that may have been. Maybe it was an earthquake that covered up a cave, the rocks that covered up a cave due to an earthquake or something like that. And over time, this fish evolved or changed. The next idea here is that in the theory of evolution, it really is largely an explanation or suggestions about how things change. So this theory suggests mechanisms and ideas about how this change has occurred and continues to occur. And lastly, just a real quick idea about theory. In terms of the science, a scientific theory is a well-substantiated explanation of some aspect of the natural world. And it's something that has been tested and tried over and over. So we look at some of the theories we have, like the theory of gravity and plate tectonics and cell theory and particle theory. These certainly are well-substantiated ideas about how our world works. And yet, in the science sense, they're still referred to as a theory. Next, we kind of looked at how theories are developed. So here's a kind of a flow chart that works for explaining that. It usually starts with identifying some problem, and then a hypothesis is formed on that problem. A test is done, and observations are made, and the data is organized and analyzed. And then the big question becomes, do the experiments, the results of the experiment and observations support the hypothesis? If no, then perhaps it's a faulty experiment. A new experiment might be designed, and new data might be analyzed and organized. This process can go on for quite a long time. Sometimes, too, I think scientists reevaluate their original hypothesis and rehypothesize on what may be happening. If eventually somebody gets some positive results that support their hypothesis, Then it becomes time to make a conclusion. Conclusions are then communicated, and then here's the really important part about it all is that those results need to now be verified by other people doing other independent experiments that try to see if the results they get are consistent with the original results. And if that happens over and over again over periods of time, then a theory may arise out of that particular set of that particular work. We finished by just watching a video that explains scientific theory and what this word actually means.